This story was submitted by Karen, a friend of mine. Karen commutes to work every day, spends a lot of time in the car, in traffic. But one night, after finishing a shift at the hospital, she was coming along the usual road. There was a bit of traffic up ahead, so she decided to take a side road. That choice was something she'll never forget for the rest of her life. While driving along, observing the speed limit, looking at the mirrors, making sure no cars were around, Karen was a very safety conscious person. So one night, she's riding along and the road was a little misty up ahead. The only light on the road was from her headlights on the car. There were no light posts. About 10 minutes into the drive, she notices an eerie feeling surrounding the vehicle, so she puts her radio on. After a few minutes, she starts to feel a little better, and then she starts to hear a haunting sound coming from the back. So she turns and looks into the back seat, and she sees what she says it was an apparition. So she got really scared, looks into her rearview mirror, and there's nothing there. But yeah, she turns back and she sees this ghostly-like figure. So she puts the signals on, quickly goes into the side of the road, puts the brakes on, stops the vehicle. Looking behind, there's nothing there. So she gets out of her car, opens the back doors, and there's nothing. Opens her trunk. She looks around. She's all alone on this road. Just the light from the moon and the stars. So she gets back in the car and she's freaked out. Keeps the radio on, constantly looking into the rearview mirror to see if she sees that face, that image. So she keeps driving. After a few more minutes, she settles down. And then she feels that sensation again, just some overwhelming feeling. So her blood pressure starts to feel it go up and she's clenching the steering wheel. And she looks into the rearview mirror and there's nothing there. So she keeps driving. She looks over her shoulder and there's nothing in the back seat. So she feels a little more at ease and she's probably about half an hour away from home. And thinking she should have not have taken this road tonight. Should have stuck on the main road. There was more activity there. It was brighter, more vehicles. But she was just tired. She wanted to get home. She thought maybe her mind was playing tricks on her. So she continued. Just when she thought it had ended, it started again. She got that uneasy feeling. And this time, she doesn't look in the rearview mirror. She turns around, and there it is. A ghostly figure of a woman sitting in her back seat looking at her with the look of shock in her face. Karen freaks out, slams on the brakes. Good thing there was no one behind her. She was alone. Brings the car over to the side, gets out of the car, picks up the phone, calls her husband at home and says, "Listen, I don't know what's going on. I'm losing my mind out here." And he says, "Well, where are you?" She goes, "Well, I took a detour off the highway. I'm over here on this road now." And he said, "Why would you do that?" She goes, I don't know. It's just I wanted to get home quicker and there was a bit of traffic." And so she explained all this to him. And he said, "Well, do you want me to come get you?" She's like, "No, I don't need to be saved. I just want to let you know what's going on." And so anyway, he thought she was having a nervous breakdown or something, and he said he'd wait for her outside of the house when she got there. So she got back in the car with the door open still and just sat there for a couple of minutes. and thought, well, what's going on? Who is this person? So I've never seen this lady before. So she got back in, closed the door, started the car up, and continued going. Now at this point, the road she's on starts to take a few turns, and it goes through a little valley, and then it comes up, and then when you get to the top of the hill, you can see her town. So she starts to drive, and then she doesn't feel an overwhelming sense anymore. She feels more of a peaceful sense about her. Not sure why she was feeling that, she said. But then she looked in the rearview mirror. Nothing. Everything looked normal. There's no one in the back seat. And then she turns over her shoulder again to the right. And there it is again. The ghostly figure of a lady. She looks straight up to the road and says, I don't know what you are, a figment of my imagination, or you're real, but you need to get out of here, or you need to tell me what you want. This needs to stop now. All of a sudden, she hears a very faint voice just behind her, asking to drop her off at the next stop. Karen's like, there's no bus stops here or anything. What are you talking about? And the voice says again, I need you to drop me off at the next stop. So Karen stops the car and says, well, the next stop's here. The voice says, no. The next stop is further ahead. I'll tell you when. Karen at this point's freaking out again. Doesn't look back anymore, continues driving. And then finally, as they get to the top of that hill, the voice says, stop here. And she stops. She just sat in her car, never looked back. Suddenly, out by the side of the car walks this lady in the wispy mist. Turns around to her and says, Miss, thank you. I've been waiting to get to this stop my whole life. Karen just looked at her and said, I can't believe that you're real. I can't believe that I'm talking to you. And the voice says, I was abandoned here 40 years ago. So I was supposed to get off here. But apparently she was given a ride. She was picked up on the side of a road and never made it home. Karen felt really bad, but then very peaceful at the same time. She had done a good deed. Then all of a sudden, the lady just walked right past her, over into the road above, just near the hill, looked back at Karen one more time, and just vanished into thin air. At this point, Karen felt at peace and just sat there in her car for the next 10 minutes. Her phone rang, which startled her. It was her husband asking if everything was okay, and she said, yeah, I think everything's okay now. She goes, I'll tell you about it when I get home. So Karen began driving. Shortly after, she turned into her neighborhood, and she can see her husband down at the end of the road waiting at the foot of the driveway. So she pulled in really slow, put the car in park, got out, and they embraced. She started to talk to her husband about what had happened, recalling the events of that evening. And then her husband said, are you sure you didn't bring anybody back with you? And she goes, what do you mean? She turns around, and sitting in the back seat is the same lady. The husband and wife both saw this. She said, I don't understand. She walked over and it disappeared, the apparition. She said, she thanked me for dropping her off and said that she had been waiting for 40 years to get to that spot. And then I left. She says, I saw her go down the road and she disappeared into the mist. Her husband said, well, maybe she likes you. You did something good for her and you brought her home with you. The only thing is, we don't know who this person was or what they did or exactly who they were. All Karen knows is that she picked someone up on the side of the road somewhere unwillingly, unknowingly, and thought she took that person to where they needed to be in the first place. Till this day, once in a while Karen will be driving. She'll look in the rearview mirror and see nothing there. But she'll never forget the night that she picked up the backseat ghost.